إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد أرحب بكم جميعا أرجو أن تكونوا بخير. Welcome all of you, hoping you are all well. Inshallah, in this 22nd night of this month of the Qa'dah of the year 1444 of the Hijrah, we seek Allah's help and assistance so that we can continue providing some benefits inshallah ta'ala. نواصل هذه الدروس من هذا الكتاب القيم الإرشاد إلى صحيح الاعتقاد والرد على أهل الشرك والإلحاد. The guide to sound creed that every Muslim should be upon. فأول الشيخ العلامة الدكتور صالح بن فوزان الفوزان حفظه الله تعالى ومتعه بالصحة والعافية وغفر له ولوالديه ووالدينا والمسلمين والمسلمات المؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. Jazakum Allah khairan for coming to the class. Allah reward you for your attendance, and may Allah make it a good for us in this life and in the hereafter. We're going to continue this chapter that we started last week, وجوب معرفة العقيدة الإسلامية. We didn't complete this chapter. Try to finish it tonight, inshallah ta'ala, which is the obligation of knowing the creed, the Islamic creed. You need to know what you're supposed to be upon. The Aqidah Sahiha, it's not an option whether you know it or you don't know. You have to learn the Aqidah. هذا من أكد الواجبات معرفة العقيدة الصحيحة التي ينبغي لكل مسلم أن يكون عليها. It's very important for us to make efforts. Alhamdulillah, in the like of this masjid, we have these classes. Fadlillah alayna. This is from the bounties of Allah that we are trying to study together this very important subject matter, which is the creed, Islamic creed. In the previous class, we learned أنه واجب. This is fardu ayn. It's not enough that one person in the family know the sound belief and sound creed. Everybody should know the basics. I'm not saying that you have to know all the adillah and the proofs, but at least you know what is the sound creed so that you can be on it, and you should know what opposes it so you can stay away from it. ولن يتأتى هذا إلا بالعلم والتعلم. This is not going to happen except through knowledge, which consists of learning. You're not going to get knowledge without learning. Knowledge is not something that comes in a pill that you're going to drink 2 a day, and after a couple of days you become knowledgeable. Now you have to put some effort and to sit down and learn. Now, we stopped at the statement of أمير المؤمنين عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه. قال نعم
يوشك قال أمير المؤمنين عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه يوشك أن تنقض عرى الإسلام عروة عروة إذا نشأ في الإسلام من لا يعرف الجاهلية.
Sheikh Fawzan, he mentioned this statement here when Umar, this great companion, Khalifa, he mentioned that the people, meaning the Muslims, they are not, we know all this, we know that Muslims, they are not on the same level when it comes to adhering to the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the implementation and the application. We all know that. But what he's saying here, is that people's adherence to the teachings of Islam will decrease as long as there arise Muslim people who have not lived or know the pre-Islamic period of ignorance. Many people fall into shirk. Why? Because they don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. That's why it's important to learn about shirk, so when somebody invites you to it, you stay away from it. I know. So here the Sheikh was doing what? He says, he was giving some advice. He says that the reason why a lot of Muslims are not practicing Islam correctly, of course there is so many reasons. And one of them, obvious one, that a lot of people are not being taught the proper Islam. Some people are just ignorant. They're not even learning anything. Whereas others who, they are learning, but they are not learning the right things. They're learning bid'ah and innovation. Some of them have been taught shirk and thinking that what's going to get them closer to Allah was going to get them to the Jannah. And the Shaykh, he says, we have to do the right things. As government, he was given advice that those in charge of the curriculums and the schools, from elementary schools up to until the colleges and the like, so they have to give a great importance to the creed, to Islam in general, and especially sound belief and sound creed. Because if a person become an engineer, PhD in this, a doctor, whatever, but he don't know nothing about Allah, that stuff is not, that secular knowledge is not going to help him when you're up here. And that's the case. Sometimes you find a person, subhanAllah, he has different masters, couple of masters, a PhD, he knows this, chemicals. It's like amazing. He don't know anything about Allah. And that's a big problem. Why? Because that person, whatever he grow, they focus on academics and secular knowledge. You got to get a degree. But they never focus on Aqidah, on Tawheed, on Sunnah, on Islam. نعم. قال هذا
ويجب اختيار الكتب الصحيحة السليمة التي ألفت على مذهب السلف الصالح وأهل السنة والجماعة والمطابقة للكتاب والسنة، فتقرر على الطلاب وتستبعد الكتب المخالفة لمنهج السلف الصالح ككتب الأشاعرة والمعتزلة والجهمية وسائر الفرق الضالة عن منهج السلف.
So the Shaykh now will continue. He says, because in a point before that, he says, look, the schools on all their levels, they have a great responsibility, and they have to teach the Muslims the Aqidah. Now they teach the math, physics, science, technology. We need those things. We need, in a Muslim community and society, we need doctors, we need engineers, we need a whole lot, electricians, plumbers. We need all those things. But we're Muslims. Yeah, you can be a doctor, but you have to know his Aqidah. You need to know your Lord, know Islam, know the basics so that your belief is sound, your tahara is correct, your salat is correct, and likewise fasting and all that. He said that's why they have to choose, the government, they have to appoint the right principals. And those principals, it's upon their responsibility to select the right teachers. Math teacher, but with sound aqidah. You see what I'm saying? Math teacher. Teacher is going to teach chemistry and history and physics, but he has sound creed, sound iman, have good akhlaq of Islam. Now he adds to that, he says, the Muslim creed, this sound creed and sound belief, textbooks now in the curriculum, in all levels, elementary, middle school, high school, college, and all that. These textbooks are to be taught in schools, should be selected from among books containing the sound creed, not anything, adopted by the righteous Salaf, by the Salafs, ya akhwan. We have to, those books, they have to teach the Aqidah to Salaf, the creed that the Prophet ﷺ left the companions upon. and the adherents of the Sunnah and Muslim community and which accords with the Quran. No, they have to be in accordance. The Aqidah that is taught has to be in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. Other books contradictory to the doctrine adopted by the Salaf al-Salih, the Sahaba, the companions, like the books containing the falsehood and principles laid down by the Ash'arites, deviant sect. Unfortunately, in some schools, in some Muslim countries, that's what they teach them. They teach them Ash'ari, Aqidah that denies the names and attributes of Allah except for a few. Like the Mu'tazila, another deviant sect, the Jahmiyyah, worst, and other sects like different Sufis, deviating from the creed that the Sahaba, the Salaf, they were upon. All of these books, they should have no place in any curriculum, in any Muslim school, period. But we hope for this. Reality is something else. Allahu musta'an. Allahu musta'an. Now.
وإلى جانب الدراسة النظامية يجب أن يكون هناك دروس تعقد في المساجد تدرس فيها العقيدة السلفية بالدرجة الأولى وتقرأ فيها المتون والشروح ليستفيد منها الطلاب وكل من حضر، ويكون هناك مختصرات مبسطة تلقى للعامة، وبذلك تنتشر العقيدة الإسلامية إلى جانب ما يذاع في البرامج الدينية بواسطة الإذاعات، ويكون هناك برنامج مستمر تذاع من خلاله أحكام العقيدة الإسلامية.
Now the Sheikh is still bringing like some very points and guidance and subhanAllah that should be practiced in a Muslim lands, in the Muslim countries, and also with minorities that live in other countries. He said, in addition to the academic study carried out in educational institutes, so now the Sheikh, he gave the advice to governments, to those departments that are responsible of education. He said there should be also seminars and sessions and classes held in the masajid, in the mosques. Okay? Not just the schools. Unfortunately, what the Shaykh is saying, in some Muslim countries, there is many masajid, they have no classes whatsoever. No classes, nothing. Here, subhanAllah, we're in the West and with masajid Salafiyya, we have classes. We have curriculums, and in some Muslim countries, in some masajid, nothing. That's the salat, that's it. Just the salat, people come and pray and go home. Nobody give them anything. SubhanAllah. That's why the Shaykh says the masajid, the mosques, they should have classes. Daily or weekly classes, seminars, in which the sound creed, the creed of the Salaf that the Sahaba were upon, is taught. In these sessions and classes, both texts and explanations of the Aqidah of the Salaf should be provided for the students and all those who attend the masajid sessions. Remember when in the classes in the masajid there are people come to pray, but also there are people who attend classes. Amongst the people who attend the classes, there are students. There are people who really wants to study. There are others, mashallah, jazakallah khairan, they work hard, but they want to attend the class. That's good. But then also there are those who are still young, and usually the youth, and some adults as well. They really want to study. They don't want one session a week is not enough for them. No, they want more. Those people should be given more if there is an opportunity to do that. So you should have classes for everybody. Those who want more, they should be provided with more classes, more curriculums. And as for the laymen and the common folks who they just come, mashallah, to attend, they should be given enough so that they can know the aqidah. By doing this, the authentic creed and the sound creed will spread amongst the community, amongst the Muslims. I know. It will spread, alhamdulillah, because they come today, they hear 1 point to 2, next week 1 point to 2, then in a year or two they're going to have nice, if they're paying attention, they have a nice, mashallah, rasid min al-ilm. إنما السيل اجتماع النقط. Like we have a rain and a flood. How that flood start? It start drizzling. It just started, people say, oh, it's about to rain. And now it started raining. And now we have a flood. Why we have a flood? Because it continued raining. It rained and rained and rained and rained. It didn't just brush off a shower of rain and it's gone. No, it kept raining, now we have a flood. Likewise, if you keep attending the classes, but with your heart and mind, not just with your body, taking notes, go home and study those notes, study with your friend. You should have a person, whether in your family or in a community, say, look, 1 or 2, 3 people, they're like, listen, can we partner here, man, become partners in studying together and reviewing the classes? That's how you're going to get knowledge. How people graduate from colleges and schools, how? Because they attend only on Saturday night? 45 minutes? A week? No. Ask those who graduated, they'll tell you. They'll tell you what they went through, man. And they have to do a lot of homework, and they have to do it with other people, and they have to check and ask and this and that. That's why they graduate. And we want to graduate as well. We want to be successful. We have to do something. Okay? The Sheikh, he even gave advice to the Muslim countries. He said, on top of these classes that should be in the masajid and this, they should be also in radio stations and television if there is. They should have programs. Those radio stations, they should have, instead of music and soap operas and I don't know what, and jokes, somebody can crack jokes to make people laugh, wal'iyadu billah. No, it should be classes on aqidah, classes on tawheed, classes on fiqh, classes on akhlaq, on hadith, on tafsir, وهكذا بارك الله فيكم. نعم.
ثم يجب أن يكون هناك اهتمام خاص بالعقيدة من جانب الأفراد، فيكون للمسلم مطالعات في كتب العقيدة والتعرف على ما ألف فيها على منهج السلف وما ألف على منهج المخالفين لهم، حتى يكون المسلم على بصيرة من أمره، وحتى يستطيع رد الشبه الموجهة إلى عقيدة أهل السنة.
Now, after the Shaykh, he gave this very beautiful and sincere advice to governments, to schools, to those who are responsible in general. Now he's given a direct advice to the Muslims themselves, individuals. Okay, like meaning, if you live in a time and the people and they are in charge of the affairs are not doing what they're supposed to do, you're not going to say, well, they're not teaching us, so what? I'm just going to stay ignorant. No, you can't do that. Can't do that. You still have this responsibility. If parents, they live in an area where there is no, let's say there is in the West. Listen, some family, mashallah, Allah guide them to the Sunnah, to Manhaj al-Salaf, but they live in town, there is no Salafi masjid. There is a few masajid, they're all upon bid'ah and innovations. With the Shia, those we don't even talk about them. We shouldn't even put a foot in there. Now we're talking about masajid of the Ikhwanis, or just politicals. And then Sufis, this, Tabligh, Kada. What are they going to teach your children? They're not going to teach your children these things. Don't say, well, there's no Salafi masjid, so what? No, you need to move, if you can, close to Salafi masjid that have classes and have this so that you can benefit. If you cannot move, well, then you have to do something. That's what the Shaykh is saying. Individuals should pay special attention to the Muslim creed, to the sound creed. How? If you have classes, mashallah, and this, because this one class a week is not enough, yeah. It's not enough. Do you eat once a week? Huh? So how are you going to be strong in Aqidah if you attend the class only once a week? It's good, but it's not enough. So you have to build on that. That's what the Shaykh said. You should read the books of Aqidah. Like this book, you have it now. It was given to you. Read it more often. Read it. Read that chapter 10 times, 50 times, 100 times. That's how you're going to benefit. It's not just by attending the class. No. You go home and read the same chapter 50 times. Now read it while you're eating breakfast, while you're, I don't know, you're laying down before you go to sleep. Some of us, we just get on the phone and start going from one dish to Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to this, I don't know what. They say, why are you doing that? Yeah, because until I get tired. Yeah, right. You don't get tired flipping those pages. Shaitan gonna keep you awake. No, alhamdulillah, you read. Me personally, I benefit from some of the ulama. They told me, like one of the mashayikh, he just died a couple months ago, Sheikh Dr. Khalid al-Dadi, rahimahullah, subhanallah. And he told me that the book of Siyar A'lam al-Nubala, you know how many volumes? Maybe like 30 volumes or something? A lot of volumes, Siyar A'lam al-Nubala. Just by looking at it, the idea comes to you, I never finish this book. That's why you never started. Because you're discouraged, you're defeated before even the game is started, like they say. No. He said to me personally, he says, but you know how I finished that book? I used to read it at bed. I have a volume, I took the first volume, put it right there by my bed. Right there. What do you call that table?
Nightstand.
Nightstand. Huh? Night table, okay? He said, I leave it there. That's his spot. Alhamdulillah, the Shaykh Rahimahullah used to teach in university, and he used to teach in other masajid, and he's involved in da'wah. And he's a husband, he's a father, he's an uncle, he's a this, that. A neighbor. But then he said, when I come home and do everything, it's time to go to bed, lay down, do the adhkar and this, get the book. Read whatever. He says, sometimes I read a few pages and I fall asleep. Sometimes I read 50 pages, 100 pages. So good. And if you try that, mashallah, you're going to finish a whole lot of books by doing that. Just have one book and start reading it until you finish it. So he said, no, individuals, ikhwan, you have to should read the books on Aqidah. You should be well informed about the books written on the sound creed according to the methodology of the Salaf. Don't read anything. As well as about the books written by the opponents of the Salaf. Also, once you're reading, you see that the ulama, they mention, like Sheikh Fawzan, he give you what you need to be on and what you should avoid. And the books of the Salaf, you read. The books of other than the Salaf, leave it alone. There is no good in them. Now, this is how you're going to have deep knowledge and insight about the authentic and sound creed, and to be able to refute the allegations that are against the creed. Because you live in times of fitan and trials. People are going to call you to these things. You're going to come across people who want to invite you to something else, and you're like, no, because you know. But those who don't know, they feel as an easy prey and victims, especially if the speaker is eloquent. If the speaker who's calling to falsehood and innovation, if he's eloquent and he knows how to talk, a lot of people fall into that. They're like, man, he can talk. That's not a talk show, man. This is Aqidah. If he's not calling to the Aqidah from its proper sources, then that's a big problem. Now,
أيها المسلم، إنك حينما تتأمل القرآن الكريم تجد فيه كثيرا من الآيات والسور تهتم بأمر العقيدة، بل إن السور المكية تكاد تكون مختصة ببيان العقيدة الإسلامية ورد الشبهات الموجهة إليها.
Then the Sheikh, he says, he's going to talk about the Quran, that we all have it, we have it in our homes. It's not enough to just have different copies of the Quran, and now we have to benefit from that. He said, look, when you reflect on the Quran, this noble Quran, not just reading it with contemplation, with reflection, you will find many verses in it, and chapters actually, surahs, devoted to such crucial issue of the sound creed, ikhwan. Many ayats of the Quran. More precisely, all the chapters revealed in the Meccan era, meaning before the Hijrah, shed light on the issues related to the creed and the claims raised about it. Most of those ayats Makkiyah that was revealed before the Hijrah, they focus on the sound creed. That's why when you read subhanAllah Juz Amma, all the ayats of Juz Amma, all about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about His magnificence and tell you about the sound creed. Now,
خذ مثلا سورة الفاتحة.
He said, for example, let's examine just Surah Al-Fatiha, okay? We all know it. The Shaykh is not going to talk about another surah. Just this very short, small, memorized by everybody, almost. All Muslims, they memorize because you have to use it. You recite it in every rak'ah in Salat. And say what Al-Allama ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said about it.
اعلم أن هذه السورة اشتملت على أمهات المطالب العالية أتم اشتمال، وتضمنتها أكمل تضمن، فاشتملت على التعريف بالمعبود تبارك وتعالى بثلاثة أسماء، مرجع الأسماء الحسنى والصفات العليا إليها، ومدارها عليها، مرجع الأسماء الحسنى والصفات العليا إليها ومدارها عليها، وهي الله والرب والرحمن. وبنيت السورة على الإلهية والربوبية والرحمة.
Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he began by saying about Surah Al-Fatiha, this surah subhanAllah that we recite, but it's not enough to just recite. When you know what it means, it's amazing. He says, look, you should know well, all Muslims, that this chapter here, Surah Al-Fatiha, contains the most important supreme requirements in every comprehensive way. How is that? Look, it includes a definition of the worshipped, the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will tell you about Allah. You'll find in information about Allah Rabbul Alameen by three of the most glorious names upon which all the sublime and glorious names and attributes are based. And that's Allah and Ar-Rabb and Ar-Rahman. They involve Allah's divinity, lordship and mercy. Now.
فإياك نعبد مبني على الإلهية، وإياك نستعين على الربوبية، وطلب الهداية إلى الصراط المستقيم يتعلق بصفة الرحمة، والحمد يتضمن الأمور الثلاثة، فهو المحمود في إلهيته وربوبيته ورحمته، والثناء والحمد كمالان لجده تعالى.
Now, the Shaykh is going to talk about, Ibn al-Qayyim, he talks about the ayats. He says, as for the ayah, or part of the ayah, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, you alone we worship. Surah Al-Fatiha. He said this refers to the divinity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Al-Ilahiyya, that Allah is the true God, the only true God that deserves to be worshipped. And إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, you alone we seek help from. This is deal with the issue of lordship, ikhwan. Because Allah is a Rabb. That's why you turn to Him and ask His help. You don't ask somebody else. You don't ask the dead people for anything. That's a shirk. As for the people who are alive, yes, you can ask them only for things that they can help you with. And they're supposed to be present with you, not far away from you. And also Allah's command, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's command to people to ask for guidance from Him because we say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Allah commands us to ask for guidance, Him for guidance, has to do with His mercy. You do what we do and all the good things because Allah is merciful subhanahu wa ta'ala. Moreover, the phrase and a part of the ayah, all praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, in the beginning of the ayah, includes the three most glorious names, which consist of Allah's divinity because He is Allah, Al-Ilah, Al-Ma'bud, Bihaq, Wahdahu. He is the only true God that deserves to be worshipped, His Lordship, and His mercy, vast mercy, and therefore He is praised. So therefore, both the praise and extolment of Allah are signs of His perfection, subhanahu wa ta'ala. نعم.
وتضمنت إثبات المعاد وجزاء العباد بأعمالهم حسنها وسيئها وتفرد الرب تعالى بالحكم إذ ذاك بين الخلائق وتفرد الرب تعالى بالحكم إذ ذاك بين الخلائق وكون حكمه بالعدل وكل هذا تحت قوله مالك يوم الدين.
Also, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala still giving us this beautiful benefits from Surah Al-Fatiha. Said also in Fatiha you will see that it comprises a confirmation of the Day of Judgment. There is a confirmation of the Day of Judgment in Surah Al-Fatiha. Okay? As well as the fact that all human beings will be called to account for their deeds, good or bad. Whatever you do in this life, you shall see it. It is Allah alone who will carry out the judgment between the creatures. He subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge people with fairness, adl. All this is included in Allah's words, Maliki Yawmiddin. He is the sovereign of the day of judgment. Now.
وتضمنت إثبات النبوات من جهات عديدة. انتهى كلام ابن القيم.
And also this great surah confirms also the prophethood of the prophets of Allah, those whom He sent, through several aspects. ثم
بينها رحمه الله تعالى بكلام مطول مفيد إلى أن قال فالقرآن كله في التوحيد وحقوقه وجزائه وفي شأن الشرك وأهله وجزائهم. فالحمد لله رب العالمين توحيد، الرحمن الرحيم توحيد، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم توحيد متضمن لسؤال الهداية إلى طريق أهل التوحيد غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين الذين فارقوا التوحيد.
Now, Sheikh Fawzan, he quoted from Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala. That's why he said all of these things, these beautiful and magnificent things that I mentioned, he said Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, actually he went and bring more details about these points that the Shaykh he didn't bring, because this is the book, the summarized book of Aqidah. He said until when Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala said, after a long explanation, he says the whole Quran revolves around the oneness of Allah, Tawheed, Islamic monotheism, and the requirements, the thing that we should do. Now, you believe in Allah, you're a Muslim, you're upon Tawheed, well, you gotta act in accordance to that. And also comprise the reward of believing in the Tawheed, as well as the state of the people of polytheism and the punishment waiting for them. Therefore, he says the words, all praises due to Allah, Rabbil Alameen, Lord of the worlds. That's declared the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's Tawheed. That refers to the Tawheed. And also the words, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, the most merciful, and Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and forgiving. He said also declares the Tawheed. It's about the Tawheed. Because He alone forgives. Nobody else is going to forgive the sins on Yawm al-Qiyamah. He alone forgives. That's Tawheed. When you say, Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim, O Allah, guide us to the straight path, keep us firm upon it, not the path of those upon whom you have bestowed. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path, the path of those on whom you have bestowed many blessings, as the ayah in Surah An-Nisa explained that. هم منهم النبيون والصديقون والشهداء والصالحون. They are the prophets and the truthful and the martyrs. Now, and the righteous. May Allah make us from them. Ameen. This comprises a supplication for guidance to the way of the people of monotheism. Yani, you're asking Allah to put you on the path of those that Allah is pleased with. Why Allah is pleased with? Because they were people of Tawheed. They are people of Tawheed. They were upon Tawheed and upon Islamic monotheism. Now, not of those, and don't put me on the path of those who evoked your anger or of those who are astray. This also involves a supplication for guidance in avoiding the way of those who abandoned sound creed, those who abandoned the Tawheed in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
وقال وغالب سور القرآن متضمنة لنوعي التوحيد فإن القرآن.
Now, and then he says, after he mentioned this about Surah Al-Fatiha, Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and also most of the chapters that are in the Book of Allah in the Quran, they comprise the aspects of the Tawheed, the two aspects, Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. And remember, in Tawheed, al-Asma' wal-Sifat is included usually in Tawheed al-Rububiyyah. Now,
فإن القرآن إما خبر عن الله وأسمائه وصفاته وهو التوحيد العلمي الخبري، وإما دعوة إلى عبادته وتوحيده وحده لا شريك له وخلع ما يعبد من دونه. وإما دعوة إلى عبادته وتوحيده وحده لا شريك له وخلع ما يعبد من دونه، فهو التوحيد الإرادي الطلبي. وإما أمر ونهي وإلزام بطاعته فذاك من حقوق التوحيد ومكملاته. وإما خبر عن إكرامه لأهل توحيده وما فعل بهم في الدنيا وما يكرمهم به في الآخرة وهو جزاء توحيده. وإما خبر عن أهل الشرك وما فعل بهم في الدنيا من النكال وما فعل بهم في العقبى من العذاب فهو جزاء من خرج عن حكم التوحيد.
Now, he continued by saying, he says, so the whole Quran, those who read with contemplation, reflection, and that's why we need the ulama, because the ulama, mashallah, they summarize for us things that if we sit together and try to come up with things like this, we may spend years, and who knows if we can come with anything like this. But when you study with the ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, يختصرون عليك الطريق ويلخصون لك الأمور. The ulama of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they give you the cream, they give you what you need to know, things that you may not get to know by yourself, even if you spend years. But them, because they were taught by the ulama, by their mashayikh, and they learn from them. Look at this book. When you read statements like this, you'll be amazed. The statement of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. He's a great scholar. So he says, so the Quran, sometimes you find in its chapters, it talks about Allah. Many are the chapters and the ayahs that talk about Allah, about His beautiful names and lofty attributes. And this is what is called, it goes under Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Asma' wa Sifat. Okay? Tawheed al-Rububiyyah and Asma' wa Sifat. Declarative Tawheed, which mean also Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, the Tawheed of Lordship, and Tawheed of names and attributes, because that's the one that give you information about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Lordship. Some other times you find in other chapters, you find that those chapters they call the people to worship Allah and believe that He is one, unique, has no partners in whatsoever, and to abandon worshipping any other partners with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is, ya ikhwan, called ماذا? Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah is what is called Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah. Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, the Tawheed of worship, that Allah alone deserves to be worshipped. Still you find in other places in the Quran, other chapters and verses, gives orders and prohibitions. I know, commands from Allah for us to do certain things and commands to stay away from other things. And urges people to commit themselves to the worship of Allah. These are among the requirements of Tawheed. You see, all about Tawheed. The Quran at some other chapters and places refers to the favors of Allah. Favors of Allah that He gives to the people of Tawheed. Okay? In this world and the final bliss He will give them in the hereafter. Many ayats will talk about those who believe and do righteous deeds and those who are upon our path and this. SubhanAllah. Those who avoid shirk, they have such and such things and such and things from good things in this life and the hereafter. Further, also Quran shed lights on the suffering of the people of shirk, polytheism and disbelief in this world, because they have nothing but danak and misery in this life. As Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan himself, he was asked a question once. He said, "Yeah, Shaykh, some of the Muslims, they wish if they have what the kuffar have, of money, fame, big mansions and cars and dunya." It's because he said, look at them, they smiling and they laughing and they happy. The Shaykh said, they're not happy. They're not happy. Because Allah tells us about them, they will never be happy. Because He said, don't be fooled by their fake smiles. What Allah says about them, وَمَنْ أَعْرَضَ عَنْ ذِكْرِي فَإِنَّ لَهُ مَعِيشَةً ضَنْكًا. Allah says, in this dunya, وَنَحْشُرُهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ أَعْمَى. And the Shaykh mentioned ayah Surah Taha. He says, anyone who turns away from Islam, from Tawheed, from sound belief, what Allah said, for such a person is a life of hardship and misery in this life. That's why you see them, they have billions and millions and commit suicide. Because they are empty inside. They have big wallets, big accounts, empty hearts. Nothing in their hearts. What would you rather have? A heart filled with Iman and Tawheed and Sunnah, love of Allah, and an empty wallet, or the other way around? Huh? I'm sure you don't want a lot of money with shirk. What are you going to do with money if you die upon shirk? If you die upon doubt, ilhad, atheism? Alhamdulillah, ikhwan, many people, some of us, we think like we have nothing, and we look at the kuffar, especially in our times. In our time, people can become millionaires in no time, right or wrong? Millionaire overnight. Overnight millionaires. 50, 100 years ago, it's not the case. You gotta work very hard to be a millionaire. I don't even think there were some billionaires at that time. Maybe if there is a few that inherited something from their billionaire families, okay? Nobody. But in our times, with this dunya is so open, and people don't even have nothing. They just have a computer. Just a computer, and they start doing I don't know what, and then they become millionaires, hundreds of millions. But you think they're rich? They're not rich. If they don't have Tawheed, they don't have Aqidah Sahihah, they don't have Islam, they're not rich, they're poor. And you think you're poor because you're struggling, one paycheck to another paycheck. No, you're not, man. You're rich. You're a Muslim. Because if Allah calls that rich person who have billions, but he's a mushrik, atheist, to die, in the same time with another Muslim who's struggling, miskin, he has a job, but he owes everybody. He's behind in every bill of any color. But he has tawheed, has sound creed, has sunnah, love of Allah. They died at the same time. Who's who? You know, who's really now rich and who's poor? You should always look at it that way. It's not about, they got money, or they famous. They got nothing, man. Because if they die under what they are upon, man, that's terrible for them. That money, they're not going to take it with them to the next life. And when they find out that for sure they're not gonna go to Jannah, he says, well, I got enough money to just manage what you do. You ain't no money in that time. You will be no money on Yawm al-Qiyamah. It's just the deeds, good or bad. So it's very important for us to remember that, ya ikhwan. That's why in the Quran you find many ayats that Allah talks about the punishment for certain people, not because they are black or white or they are from this country or the other. That's regardless. No, because of them opposing the commands of Allah, opposing to what the messengers and the prophets are sent to call them to. They oppose Tawheed, and they abandon believing in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
ومع اهتمام القرآن بشأن العقيدة الإسلامية فإن أكثر الذين يقرؤونه لا يفهمون العقيدة فهما صحيحا فصاروا يخلطون ويغلطون فيها لأنهم يتبعون ما وجدوا عليه آباءهم ولا يقرؤون القرآن بتدبر فلا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
In the end of this chapter, the Shaykh he highlight and point out to to something that's happening in the Muslim communities. Ya subhanallah. Some Muslims. He said, in spite of the fact that Quran assigns a great attention to the creed, to the sound creed. Many are the ayahs that talks about tawheed and warn against shirk. Talks about sound belief and warns against what opposes it or what decreases it. Still, many people, Muslims, those who they say they're Muslim, they grow up in Muslim countries, they recite the Quran. They do. See them in the masajid and at their home, they recite Quran, but do not understand the sound creed. SubhanAllah. They read all of the ayats of Tawheed and the warning against shirk. They still commit acts of shirk by calling upon others than besides Allah. Those who call upon the angels, those who call upon messengers, those who call upon companions, those who call upon Ali, Hussein, call upon Shaylani, Bamba, Baba Farid, Tijani, Rifa'i, name them. But they read Quran. They read Quran. They read Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, and they said, Ya Jaylani, Ya Hussein, Ya Baba Farid, Ya kada. They read, they know the Ayat al-Kursi. I think many Muslims know Ayat al-Kursi because it's beautiful. Ayah is a famous ayah. And they know it. Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayy al-qayyum. So these are descriptions of the one that you should say, Oh Allah, help me. Oh Allah, give me children. Oh Allah, cure my father, my mother, my grandfather. Oh Allah, give me this and give me that. Oh Allah, protect me. Not the dead people. Dead people, they need our dua. When you go to visit any grave, especially for Muslims, even if it's a righteous person who died, upon righteousness, upon tawheed, he needs your dua. Say, Oh Allah, that was our shaykh. We learned a lot from him. Jazahullah khair. Oh Allah, have mercy on him. Don't look at the grave and say, Yeah, Shaykh, you left us alone. I don't know what we're going to do without you. Please help us. Please help us. Jahannam. No, those people who are dead, that the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us to make dua for them. to ask Allah for them maghfirah and forgiveness and mercy and the like. So the Shaykh, he says, subhanAllah, it's amazing. This matter of Tawheed is so clear in Islam. In Quran, still many people, they read the Quran and go against its commandments and its orders, and they commit very grave mistakes. Why? If you wonder why, they just read Quran. They just read it. Some they read for barakah. Some they just read it because, we Muslims, we need to read this book. Huh? But when it comes to belief, when it comes to the implementation, they hold on to what their forefathers are upon, his sheikh is upon, what his country is upon, what his tribe is upon. Even if they are upon shirk, doesn't matter. No, I'm going to stick with my people. Whatever, I'm only one of them. Whatever they do, I'm going to do it. Huh? La, ya ikhwan, kif. You have to stick with your people in different things that are permissible. You can speak their language, you can eat their food. Nobody going to tell you why you eat this food. Like, for example, I'll just give an example. Our brothers from Indo-Pak area, they eat what? Biryani and chicken karahi and all these things. We're happy for them. Tikka. You like tikka? So he's not even from Pakistan. He's from Morocco, like your food. That's normal. But can somebody from Nigeria or from Italy, Muslim, say, why are you guys eating that stuff? No, we said, okay, no problem. If you see two brothers speaking a dialect that they understand, you know, them is a bid'ah, haram, you have to speak my dialect. No. Of course, when two people who knows Urdu, for example, if there is another person with them who don't know Urdu, they should not talk in front of him in Urdu. They should not. Otherwise, the shaitan going to use that. So they're talking about you, man. Yeah, you see him? Oh, that's it. They say something about him. And he's going to put something in his heart, because we're human. Unless if you have to say something to that person, tell the other person, listen, I'm sorry, man. This man here, he speaks only Urdu. He doesn't know Arabic, no English, nothing. And I really, really want to tell him something that has nothing to do with you. Is it permissible? It's okay. Then he'll say, you know what? As long as you don't do it in front of me, let me leave and do your things. I know. This is from the adab, ya akhwan, from the adab of Islam. But unfortunately, the Shaykh said, these people, what? They read Quran. That's amazing. At least if they read the Bible, or they read something else, they read Quran. Quran is all about Tawheed. And warning against shirk, they still commit shirk. Why? Because they hold it, instead of holding to what they're reading, they hold into what their people are upon, of falsehood and deviation. Nas'alullah as-salamata wal-afiyah. There is no power nor might except with Allah. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. By this we came to the end of this chapter and this class bi'idhnillah. The next class and chapter will be ad-da'watu ila al-aqeedah al-islamiyya. Now, since we know what's the aqidah, we know it's important and obligatory to learn it, and we all learn all of the etiquettes of that, then you have to call to it too. It's not just you. Now you know what you're doing, you teach others. And by the way, الشرب يكون باليمين. شرب الماء أو العصير أو أي شيء يكون باليمين ليس بالشمال، لأن الشيطان يشرب بشماله. بارك الله فيكم، جزاكم الله خيرا، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.